the room. Welcome. It's 6 o'clock. Let's get started. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Is this not on? I can use the teacher voice or I can...
Test it again.
Hello. Oh, there we go. All right. Welcome. Let's get started. We're going to begin with Pledge of Allegiance by Dr. Vicki Carter.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we've got something very special we want to share with you. For our inspirational thought or reflection, we're going to show you a video. Many of our schools have special service projects this time of year, and we ask them to submit to us just a little information about what they did. And so this video describes what has happened at one of our schools, and I think you will find it inspirational.
I promise you, this is a day you'll never forget. It is very important for you to take care of your little Christmas child all day while you're here. We're going to pair you up with these little Christmas children. Then you will come and you'll eat breakfast provided by Costa Vida and Fat Cat. This whole event would not happen without them. They have funded this whole thing, and they've been doing this with me for 14 years.
This is my second year doing the Bear Hugs program, and we just love doing this. We love helping the kids. It's our way to give back to the community, and I'm just real excited. It's fun to watch the kids' eyes light up when they see everything, and so far they're enjoying it, and I'm glad to be here today, and I'm excited about our day's activities.
When we go to Walmart, each of these little kids get $100 to spend. No tax, so you don't have to worry about that, but please go as close to 100 as you can without going over. Today is for the little kids. I'm Becky. Again at our Bear Hugs for Kids shopping day. This is our 14th year doing this. Started way back in 2008 when we used to do the mascot bowl to raise all of our funds.
Oh my gosh, it's Santa! Oh my gosh, it's Santa! I know her, she's Santa! Merry Christmas, everybody!
But this year, our friends at Costa Vida funded the whole thing, so we are here providing a Christmas shopping experience for 150 little kids. And we have about 300 high school students who are here to chaperone them. It is such a great thing. It's my favorite thing to do all year. My dream is that every single high school would be able to do this, to find a sponsor, to be able to give back to the little kids. The fun part about this is we've been doing it so long that a lot of the high school kids who are the chaperones, they were once these little children.
I came back to Bear Hugs this year because it's so rewarding, and I love being able to meet new kids and be able to take them shopping. Not only is it rewarding for the kids, but it also is for you, and it's so fun to get an experience like this and to have a great time during the holidays.
3 or 4 years ago, I had a student come up to me and say, Mrs. White, when do we sign up for the Jazz Bear shopping and the Bear Hugs for Kids? She said, I was one of those little kids, so I want to be the first to sign up. And there are many, many stories like that. Some of the kids who were helpers, high school chaperones, are now the fire chief who leads the procession, who are the cops that help us with the procession as well. People who come and work. My family comes every single year to run registers and to help. It's just a family tradition. So we're just very grateful for all the people who donate their time, their talents, their resources. Too many to count, but we hope that this is a tradition that goes on forever.
Are you having fun here at Bear Hugs?
Yeah.
You know, we've been doing this for many, many years. I've actually been with the Bear for over 30 years. But we've been here at Alpine School District doing this, taking children shopping. And you're one of them, right? Are you having fun? We do this because it's a great way to spread the Christmas spirit and help a lot of children who may not get the opportunity. So thank you for all of your support and help, Alpine School District, you bus drivers, you administrators, all of you schools. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas. And remember, I'm watching you. Better watch out.
that opportunity. We have another video that you can see that's going to be released at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and it will tell you the exciting things that are happening at Westmore Elementary. They have found sponsors and donors and participants to be able to provide 2 weeks of meals for, I think, 160 families, 522 children, and they will give them a box of food to last for the 2 weeks over the Christmas break. And so that video will be released tomorrow morning, so you'll want to be sure to get onto the ASD YouTube website and look at that. That's also very exciting. Well, tonight we want to honor 6 people, and these are our RISE Awards, and we love being able to give these. RISE is remarkable, inspiring, selfless, and encouraging. And these are awards that can be, that are given to teachers and faculty and staff, but anyone can submit an application, a parent, a student, a fellow teacher, anyone, for one of these people. And so these are the 6 that we're honoring tonight, and we'll start with Ada Wilson, Chad Bevins.
Nominated by Jordan Blanchard, if he or she is here. But Chad, could you come on down? Chad Blevins. Woohoo! And also Principal Kevin Henshaw. Are you here? Thank you, Principal Henshaw. Jordan wrote about Chad Blevins. Mr. Blevins is enthusiastic and happy. Students in his class and the hallways can't help but feel that excitement as Mr. Blevins brightens their day by saying hello. He diligently identifies essential standards and ensures that each student learns them. As a wrestling coach, he is always recruiting and working to build a team. He is a huge asset to our community. It is a privilege for me to learn from and work with Chad Blevins.
Next up, we have Julie Burnside, and we'd like to invite Julie. She was nominated by Heidi Woolsey. If she's here, please also come up, and Principal Gina Witt. Heidi wrote, "My family has been with Alpine Online since 2014. Julie Burnside has been the teacher for 3 of my kids. She has always been very supportive and helpful. She is always readily available anytime my kids need help with questions they have with their lessons. She encourages them to keep moving forward. Thank you, Julie."
Next is Rachel Lindsay, who is a paraeducator at Foothill. She was nominated by Kalayana Downs, and so we'd like to invite Rachel, Kalayana, and Principal Kyle Hoops to come on up. Kalayana wrote, "Rachel goes above and beyond in her role as a paraeducator in small group autism classroom. She demonstrates problem-solving skills and a positive attitude that inspires the students and colleagues around her. One of the most remarkable aspects of Rachel is her willingness to help others. She regularly goes out of her way to support other teachers and other students throughout the school. Her hard work and dedication to Foothill does not go unnoticed." Thank you, Rachel.
Next up, we have Trina Jackson, and we invite Trina, Bethany, and Principal Park to come forward. Bethany wrote, "Mrs. Jackson is so supportive. She goes out of her way to communicate and ensure parents feel involved. My son was injured at school, and no one seemed to know what had happened. When she found out that no one had told me, she wrote me a detailed explanation. She is fun, welcoming, and encourages students to reach their potential."
Next, we would like to recognize Jonathan Horan and also invite Jill and Principal Paul to come on up with Jonathan. Yay. Jill wrote, "For years, my kids couldn't wait to get to 5th grade so that they could have Mr. Horn for their English teacher in the DLI program. He's an exceptional teacher because he listens, he cares about the individual, and he is consistently joyful. Mr. Horn truly listens to the students and parents. He has an exceptional ability to care about the needs of each individual in his class, and he has a constant smile. He shows up every day full of joy to be teaching."
Next, we'd like to recognize Linda McCoy and invite her down, along with Principal Hannah Figueroa, who nominated her. Linda. Principal Figueroa wrote, "Linda took on the project of our teen center. She has spent time dreaming of what would be best for students, working with construction to ensure the structure could serve students, designing, purchasing, decorating, and most importantly, serving students. She makes hard and sometimes uncomfortable situations feel manageable and survivable. She wants to ensure that the whole student is cared for. If you have the chance to visit our teen center, you will see she has done remarkable work, which is inspiring and encouraging for both staff and students. And I can attest that the work of Linda McCoy she tells those kids how valuable they are by what she does for them. So thank you so much, Linda."
Next up, if we can have Bryn Losey of Westfield Elementary come up, and we invite Marley and Principal Stewart to come up as well if they're here tonight. Marley wrote, "Mrs. Losey is deserving of this award because she goes above and beyond to inspire and engage students, fostering a love for learning. She creates a positive, inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and supported. My child is autistic with physical disabilities. Mrs. Losey loved and cared for him as her own, ensuring he had every support he needed to succeed academically and socially. Congratulations."
And our last nominee tonight goes to Brian Crosby, and we invite him as well as Tim Randall, the parent who nominated him, and Principal Shane Hill to come forward. Tim wrote, "The dedication by Brian Crosby to the musical instruction of his kids is nothing short of amazing. We have had 2 kids in his classes over the years, and he is always pushing the kids to better themselves, while putting an immense amount of extra time before and after school to help his bands. His work is noted by the consistent awards of his higher level bands win every year at the state and regional competitions. We have seen the improvement in our kids by having him as a music teacher. He deserves a nomination for Rise for his selfless dedication to his band kids and their improvement. Congratulations."
Got to do 2 lines? No, it's okay.
We know how to find our way.
We just,
Ethan is trained as well. We're good.
we just kind of.
Everybody up top. I just meant like
Tallest people.
There you go. wait. Now, we like to shake the hands of all of our awardees, so if you'll just come up and over. I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege, if I might, to say thank you at this point. I spent 30 years teaching in Alpine School District, and I became aware that there were so many people that helped me on that journey every single day. And I would just like to read a statement of thanks to all of our Alpine family. You know, the thought came to me as I was thinking about this, you're like, when you have a problem in your classroom, who you're gonna call? And these are the people you call. So my heartfelt thanks goes out to our warehouse people who order and deliver classroom supplies and materials, everything from paper to Band-Aids. Bus drivers who bring our students to school every day. They are usually the first and last ASD employee that our students get to see. Our lunch workers who offer the students to make sure the students have good nutrition so they can learn. The nurses, counselors, and psychologists who take care of their physical and emotional needs. Media center people who provide opportunities for students to take flight into exciting new worlds. Secretaries who keep everything running smoothly and on time. Custodians who make sure the buildings are clean and safe, the snow shoveled, the grass green, the playing fields groomed, not to mention the days when they are called to clean up messes, including those left behind by sick students. Electricians, plumbers, and carpenters who create safe and functional learning environments. Computer technicians who make sure the system is up and running every day. Alpine has almost 10,000 employees, and every one of them is important. Every single one of them has a part to play. So I think I can speak on behalf of the entire board to say thank you to our Alpine family and to their families and all those people who rely on us and rely on them. So thank you to all of our Alpine employees who make it happen every single day. Now, yeah.
Okay.
Now we have one more award to give. This is pretty exciting.
We're going to invite Elizabeth Robinson and Miss Lake and Principal Keene to come forward. So while they're coming forward, I will say I have known Miss Lake for a very long time, and I love the environment that she has for her students that allows them to create. So it is absolutely makes sense to me that Elizabeth was chosen. So we want to congratulate Elizabeth Robinson from Lehigh Junior High. Her design was selected for our 2024 district holiday card. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing your outstanding artistic talent with us. And we present you with the original artwork that has been framed, along with a few copies of the greeting card to share with your family and friends. Well done.
Elizabeth, shake our hands. Elizabeth, come. You know, when you say, does anybody else have pictures or want to take pictures? We all want her picture, I think. How long did it take you to create that? It's beautiful. You are so talented. It's inspiring.
Okay, it's always dangerous to hand me a microphone. Tonight we want to do a special recognition, and we're actually recognizing President Hacken. This is her last board meeting after serving on the board for 8 years. And so we want to take the time to recognize the contribution that Sarah has, how she's made a difference in the lives of so many students and employees. So Sarah has served 8 years on the board. Under her leadership, our priorities have been student achievement, teacher effectiveness, and stakeholder engagement. So 8 years, that means 8 budget cycles. It means 8 enrollment projections, and it means 8 legislative sessions. Each of those carry their own weight. During Sarah's time on the board, we have navigated a pandemic, and Utah had less learning loss than any state in the country. We expanded full-day kindergarten to every elementary school in the district. In that 8 years, we have also built 2 high schools, Skyridge and Cedar Valley, as well as the rebuild of Lehigh High. We have built 2 middle schools, Lake Mountain and Viewpoint. And we have built 9 elementary schools, Springside, Belmont, Brookhaven, Centennial, Liberty Hills, Silver Lake, Harbor Point, Trailside, and Desert Sky. In addition to that, we have done rebuilds of Grovecrest, Cascade, Central, as well as the Space Center in Greenwood. Sarah's service has impacted and influenced thousands of students and thousands of employees, and we are incredibly grateful for her service. Thank you, Sarah.
It's a group effort, guys. It's always a group effort. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Oh, it's got little guys on it. Thank you. Wonderful.
Do we want to do like a board photo? Can we do a board photo maybe with us coming out? Is that okay?
Oh, that'd be nice. Do it. That'd be nice. Okay. No. Well, thank you all. Thank you for coming, and thank you for this lovely recognition. I love flowers, absolutely love them. All right, it's time for community comments, and we only have one from Tamara Barr. So Tamara, come on up. If you're here with the RISE people, you need to leave. This is a good time to go. You're welcome to leave. We know a lot of you have families and other things going on tonight.
Thank you very much for taking my comment. I'm here to address the ALL program that we're voting on tonight. I've had 5 kids that participated in the ALL program at Cherry Hill, Foothill, and Orem Elementary, and I currently teach 3rd grade at Cherry Hill Elementary. And as a parent of ALL students, only 2 of mine were able to participate in the 3rd grade program, and all of them really would have benefited from being able to participate in the 3rd grade ALL program. I have one student in my class right now who's reading at a 6th grade level and another one who's at a kindergarten level. And that 6th grade reading level student would really benefit from being in an ALL program because it's hard to differentiate from kindergarten up to 6th grade in my reading, my math, and everything like that. So I just wanted to say, please consider what benefits our students and how do we answer that question of how do we help the students who already know.
Thank you, Tamara. All right, we are moving through the agenda. The next item is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ada and seconded by Joy Lynn that we approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you. The minutes stand approved. Claims, Dr. Farnsworth.
Yes, President Hacken, you have received as a board the claims for the month, and I recommend you accept the claims.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the claims?
I move that we accept the claims.
And do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Stacy and seconded by Mark that we accept the claims. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, the claims stand accepted. Thank you. Routine business.
Yes, you've received the routine business for this month, and I recommend you accept the routine business.
I move that we accept the routine business.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Sarah and seconded by Ada. Is there any discussion? For the public, routine business includes budget summary, Alpine Foundation board summary, personnel hiring and releases, LEA-specific licenses, school land trust amendments, and 24-25 school-wide positive behavior plans. All of those were sent to the board several days ago, and we've had a chance to read through all of those. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the routine business, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you, that stands approved. Now, action items.
Yes, our first action item is the determination of the boundary for the new middle school in Eagle Mountain. We'd invite Eric Woodhouse, the Director of Operations for Alpine School District, come forward, and Brian Jolly, principal of the new, to be named in the future, middle school in Eagle Mountain. But we need to get a boundary first. So they have a short presentation they'll review with you. This is process has gone on over the last several months. We've gotten great feedback. I appreciate the work of Eric and the team to do due diligence in getting feedback and establishing, making a recommendation to the board for a boundary. So Eric, we'll turn some time over to you.
Thank you, Superintendent. We're really excited about this part of the process. I think that there has been kind of a process and excitement of getting this boundary in place so that Principal Jolly can start figuring out which students are going to go to his school and start getting everything in place and naming the school. And there's a lot of excitement in this boundary, too, because we've done a lot of work trying to really figure out what would work best for this school. And either one of these options, I think, will work really good that we've proposed. Of course, as a boundary committee, there is one that we are leaning towards, but just kind of want to review with you really quick what we've gone over and what those boundaries are. So items for consideration, option A, what you're really looking at here is a division of the Firefly development as well as a division of the Hidden Hollow boundaries. And so some things to consider, transportation to and from the Firefly development works a little bit better in this option because of SR 73 going to the new middle school. Large new developments are evenly split, so as the Firefly development kind of builds out, then that enrollment is going to be split between the new middle school and the Frontier. Hidden Hollow split, both the middle school makes sense for the kind of the traffic flow. It's a little better pattern for those families. However, in the 50-50 split of Hidden Hollow, they recommended keeping the neighborhoods together. So sometimes when you split, it's not necessarily keeping a neighborhood together for the enrollment considerations as far as balancing that enrollment out. So that was some of the options for the positive comments on option A. Some of the positive comments for option B, Firefly development goes all to Frontier, which starts Frontier a little bit lower because as it builds out, then it'll have more room for Frontier to go because all of Hidden Hollow will go to the new middle school. Favored by families from Hidden Hollow because it keeps that enrollment going the same to the new middle school, and we feel like that's kind of the best option there as far as keeping Hidden Hollow together. So those are some of the considerations. Our team met with supervisors and Principal Jolly, looked over option A and option B. Right now, our leaning is towards option B. We feel like keeping Hidden Hollow together and then starting Frontier a little bit lower and allowing that enrollment to grow into the Frontier boundaries and starting the new middle school a little bit higher allows him to start his programs. And overall, we feel like option B is a better consideration for this, but we understand that it's the board's recommendation and consideration, so we put that to the board for your consideration and vote.
All right, do I have a motion to accept one of these boundary plans?
I move that we accept option B for the boundary for the new middle school in Eagle Mountain.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Julie and seconded by Joylyn. So let's start with Julie. Would you like to make comments on this?
Appreciate all the work that the committee has done, and this has been a very long process, getting a lot of feedback. This one was close, right? Like either one of them are a good solid option. It came down to two things for me. First off, I like the idea of keeping Hidden Hollow together. We just had a reboundary of that school not too long ago. To have kids flipping back and forth is tough. I will also say I recognize the challenge of when you go to Hidden Hollow, you may be living very, very close to Unity Pass, which you can see Frontier from. So that sometimes feels like, wait, what are they deciding? A big thing for me too is just looking forward. We know the Firefly development is going to significantly increase population. We know that Frontier has the ability to stretch and grow since they're around 1,800 students, and so we know that they can do that. But I will say, even though there is a differential starting out, in just a few years, as happens in the West, both of those schools will be pushing, over 1,600. So I would also say this is not the last boundary change that will happen in Eagle Mountain, especially when it comes to secondary schools, because before you know it, there will be a need for another middle school, and we'll be doing the process all over again. So I'm just incredibly grateful to the committee for all the work that they've done. I'm grateful for the amount of feedback that we received from community members, their involvement in the committees. That was fantastic to get their perspectives. And I'm just, I think this is the best option. And I think this one will serve both schools for longer, not long-term, longer. And I'm very excited, and I know, Brian, a big piece for you is you need to figure out how many employees you need to hire. And based on how many students you're gonna have is how many employees you can hire. So I know, please don't work too hard over the holiday break, because I'm a little bit worried about you're gonna get these numbers and go down a rabbit hole. So please take the time off. Okay, thanks.
Okay, other board comments?
I just wanted to thank the community for the amount of comments that they did send and their involvement in the process and their willingness to realize that this isn't a final boundary, that it's going to continue to change and they're going to continue to shift as that community continues to grow, and just their patience with us as we work through boundary issues. So I really appreciate the community and want to thank them for their support, and I'm excited to move forward with Boundary B.
Any other board comments? Okay, seeing then, oh, Ada, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for the data summary and all those who were responsible for getting that in a concise way for us. We appreciate it.
Okay, moment of truth. All in favor of approving option B for the new boundaries for the new middle school, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, there you have it. Okay, congratulations. Go name that school, make it happen. Okay.
Okay, the next several items we have broken out as individual items for the program studies, the formal study we've done on gifted and talented and dual language immersion, and the possible closure of a couple of schools. We have broken those out individually so the board members could vote on each one of those proposals individually. And just for a reminder or maybe new information to the public, these were recommendations that were made a couple of years ago by the staff to be implemented in the fall of 25 and 26. Last year, legislative session changed the statute requiring board approval. We opened back up the formal study of those this fall, prior to the vote being taken in November for the reconfiguration of Alpine School District. I know that that is being taken into consideration as board members consider these changes. We needed to start that process before the vote so that it would run the full statutory required time in order for the board to make a decision by the end of this month. So the first recommendation, the first aspect of study that was being considered was the expansion of third grade advanced learning lab programs across the district.
Okay, do I have a motion to expand the third grade ALL programs across the district?
I move to expand the third grade ALL programs to include third grade in ALL.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Joylyn and seconded by Mark. Board member comments.
I'm just really excited to move forward with this. Like Tamara commented earlier on, that it's just going to be a benefit for students across the district to be able to enter that advanced learning lab at an earlier age. So I'm excited to move forward with this.
We do have that in a few schools right now, and this would expand it to all of the schools. So.
Okay, other comments? I agree. I'm very excited about being able to offer this to more students. If there are no other comments, let's take a vote. All in favor of expanding the third grade programs, the ALL programs to third grade, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, thank you.
And I failed to express our appreciation to Dr. Annalise Ruiz and her team for the work that they've done on gathering feedback and sharing with the board. And she would love an opportunity to come forward with her teammates to sit here and be available for any questions that surface in the process of this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Ruiz. Appreciate that. Okay, the next item is the ALL program study. Another component of that is the creation of a new program at Silver Lake Elementary.
Okay, do I have a motion to create a new ALL program at Silver Lake Elementary?
I move that we create a new ALL program at Silver Lake Elementary.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Julie and seconded by Joylyn. Board member comments.
Just gratitude for the team for this, for looking into it, doing a district-wide analysis and finding out where gaps were, and so thank you for the work.
Just really excited for this program to come into a community that could benefit it. There's a great need in both the Westlake and the Cedar Valley cluster for additional seats, and we're glad to be able to provide those seats for students that need them.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor of expanding or creating new program at Silver Lake Elementary, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you. Next.
The next ALL program study recommendation was the creation of a new program at Shelley Elementary.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we create a new ALL program at Shelley Elementary.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, board member comments.
Just excited to have ALL in AF. Right now the programs are a little distant from so many of our AF schools, so just excited to bring that opportunity to more students.
Other comments?
I think one thing that I've been weighing as I look at this is what would the new school board in that central district area want? It's possible that they would want this program in another location. I think that this kind of centers most of those programs in the north. However, you know, I'm supportive of the board members in that area, and I think that if they decided to move that program, they could do that after the new district's created.
There's two things I've been thinking about. We had an ALL program in American Fork for years and years and years. That was our second program. We started at Cherry Hill, and then I was sent to Barrett Elementary to open a program here. And so we had a program in American Fork for 20 years at least. And there is a lot of impetus to bring it back. However, there are also 3 other programs that are in this area. So I would really like to hear from the board members from this area in terms of the concern that if we open this program now, then when the new school boards are seated, will they have to juggle boundaries or close programs? Or what do you think about, is this the right time to do this?
Well, and that's a good question. I mean, Mark kind of alluded to that previously, and that's been one of my concerns is what this will look like in a couple of years when we have a new school board. We don't presume to know the new school board's vision or the superintendent's goals for that new district. However, I think at the moment, putting it there and let's see what happens, we may have to see some adjustments through the central area, just like Mark had said, and maybe moving programs around a little bit. I'm not sure. I mean, that's definitely going to be up to a new board, but there is some hesitation. You hate to start something that you don't know in the next couple of years of what that's going to be. So.
I haven't had anyone contact me with concern about this. Right now, it's just gratitude for being able to, for the Shelley placement. I think I would also say overwhelmingly that ALL is probably the thing that we hear from most parents about is wanting more programs. I think we'll absolutely need to look at the ones in the Lone Peak cluster, but I don't foresee that impacting creating the program at Shelley.
Dr. Ruiz, what was the committee recommendation about this particular placement?
Yeah, the committee's recommendation is that many families don't want to drive as far as those programs in the north end of our district, and so we were losing a lot of students because of the distance. And so opening a program in the American Fork area will attract those students, and we will be able to provide them with the access closer to home.
And I appreciate the comment that we're possibly acting premature, a future board, but I think it will also, creating this program will allow for that possible distribution prior to that board needing to make that decision, so they'll see where the will of families are to establish, and it may give them some data whereby they could determine what the final location of those programs should be in that new district.
Yeah, definitely. In 2 years, you'll have enough data to see where the demand is, where students are driving to and from, and then decide which programs to keep and which ones maybe to phase out over time.
Okay, other board comments? Okay, it was moved by Stacy and seconded by Sarah Beeson that we create a new program at Shelley Elementary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you, and congratulations, Shelley Elementary. Right.
Okay, action item number 5 is a DLI program study item. It's creation of a new Spanish DLI program at Mountain Trails Elementary.
Okay, I need a motion.
I move that we create a new Spanish DLI program at Mountain Trails Elementary.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Julie and seconded by Joylyn. Board member comments?
This one, I was really excited when the committee came forward with this recommendation. Mountain Trails is a unique school system. It's unique geographically as to where it's located in Eagle Mountain and the students that it serves. And because the other DLI program in the Cedar Valley cluster is essentially on the edge of Eagle Mountain, and the way that it kind of hits where you've got Black Ridge, Harvest, Riverview kind of all in this one big, really tight S. It's really limited the access that students can have with this program. We've also seen a significant uptick in the amount of multi-language learners we have in the area, and so we're excited about being able to serve some of our multi-language learners where this could be a support for them. So I'm thrilled that this recommendation came forward, incredibly grateful, and from what I've heard from the community, just very grateful that this was an opportunity that we had for their children, so thank you.
Other board member comments?
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question for staff. Just make sure I'm understanding this right. When we start a new DLI program, the first year it's just first grade and then second grade, so it's going to build momentum over time. Great. Thank you.
Other comments? All right. It was moved by Julie and seconded by Joylyn that we create a new Spanish DLI program at Mountain Trails Elementary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, congratulations, Mountain Trails.
The next item is a DLI program study item, the creation of a new Spanish DLI program at River Rock Elementary.
I move that we create a new Spanish DLI program at River Rock Elementary.
And I second that.
Okay, moved by Stacy and seconded by Joylyn. Board member comments.
So I think we're most excited about this because we thought we were getting a program 6 years ago, and that didn't happen. So there has been ample time for the community to be excited and anticipate this. We're excited for the opportunities for our multilingual learners, for the roles that our native Spanish speakers will play in this program. I think this is it's a perfect spot for a Spanish program. It's going to help out the Willow Creek numbers and the Lehigh High School program as well. So just a lot of really excited people. And I will say thank you to staff for when we came back with the question that could we move this so that it would be a little more central to West Lehigh. Thank you for moving away from 2100. I don't wish to send anyone else over there than we need to. And so thank you for looking at that and coming up with another solution. And also thank you to Principal Ridge and to our River Rock teachers they're just excited for this program. And I think, man, when teachers are excited and families are excited, it's going to be a very cool thing to watch this grow and the way that it helps students in our community.
I just want to comment. I know that as we create new districts, we're going to have to look at that West Lehigh area and do some boundary adjustments. But where we're just adding first grade and then second grade, we're going to have ample time for those new boards to look at and adjust and potentially build and maybe even close a school in that area and align. But it's not going to be impacted by going ahead and getting this started and allowing that program to flourish in an area that has been, I want to say underserved, but really it's been a lack of service of a DLI program in the Lehigh community, in the Lehigh High School feeder system. And so it's time, and let's start moving forward, and I'm sure a new board will tackle all of those boundaries as they come forward.
Other comments? All right, let's vote on the creation of a new Spanish DLI program at River Rock Elementary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thank you. Congratulations to River Rock.
With the build of a new junior high school in the Eagle Mountain area, currently the Chinese DLI pathway goes from Black Ridge to Frontier Middle School, with Black Ridge being in the new junior high boundaries, as that was established tonight with that boundary. We recommend a change of the pathway from Frontier Middle School to the new Eagle Mountain Middle School for the Chinese dual language pathway in that area.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I motion that we change the Mandarin DLI pathway from Frontier Middle to the new Eagle Mountain Middle School.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Julie and seconded by Jolynn. Board member comments?
I'm going to recognize that this one actually has some mixed opinions from Mandarin parents. So I want to acknowledge that first off, that not every parent is going to be thrilled about this movement. Based on the proximity of the Black Ridge School to the new middle, it just makes sense. Do I realize that there are students who travel outside of that boundary? Absolutely. And so I want to recognize that. I know that there's also significant concern based on the location as far as SR 73. There are some challenges on that road that I know you are both very well aware of as far as speed and safety, and that when MAG data has come out, that road in particular is one that we're significantly concerned about when it comes to student safety. I know that the city is working to try and get a lighted intersection to the new middle school before school opens. That's one of their focuses. So we are working with the city and trying to be very intentional about making sure that student safety is, the #1 priority. But I think that this will be a long-term benefit that will lead to less movement in the future. And I think any time that we can find stability in a high-growth area, I take that as a huge win.
Okay, any other comments?
I just wanted to comment on that creation of stability. If we left it at Frontier, that could also be taxing on Frontier, having two DLI programs come through their school. This just allows both schools to have access to a DLI program. It allows the community to have some choice, and we really appreciate that, so thank you.
Okay, any further comments? All right, let's vote on changing the Chinese DLI pathway from Frontier Middle School to the new Eagle Mountain Middle School. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that passes. Now, before we go on to the next item, I would like to just make one comment. We have had ALL programs in the district since 1984, and the very first language programs were before that. They were at Cherry Hill Elementary, where they had Spanish immersion. So these are programs that are long-standing programs, but as the district has expanded west, the programs have not. And so it is time for us to do this, and I am just thrilled that we were able to do this, that the study was done, that these schools are willing to host these programs, and that the board is willing to support this kind of expansion, because this is definitely a great direction for the district to be moving at this time. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The next item is the closure of Windsor Elementary. We put that prior to item number 9, the DLI program study, the merger of the Windsor Elementary, creation of a magnet program in Orchard, because they're related to that. So we wanted to get the will of the board on the closure of Windsor, which would influence, obviously, the determination of the whether or not we merge those programs and create a magnet program. So the next item is the closure of Windsor Elementary.
I move that we table the closure of Windsor Elementary.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
The closure of that would mean there's a formal study going on right now. We would end the formal study with no action. Or are you tabling it for?
Future action, no.
Could we have you rephrase that to say, I move that we conclude the formal study with no action?
Okay. I move that we conclude our formal study with no action for closure of Windsor Elementary.
Okay, thank you.
I second that motion.
Thank you. All right, board discussion.
And this is really your area, Sarah.
It is, and some of my people are right there. And we have been talking about this for years. And
yeah, go ahead with your.
And I absolutely support not closing Windsor at this time. And everyone in my area knows that my dream is to rebuild Windsor, to find the funding, rebuild Windsor, and then take action from there. And that's something that a future board will want to do. But Windsor is a strong school. They've got good enrollment. They have a prime location. They've got great teachers. So I think at this time it would be premature to close that school. And my inclination is let's rebuild it and let a future board take it from there when we can.
So I also agree with this motion to terminate the study while taking no action. I think we've discussed several things that a future board could contemplate with respect to this New South District. One of them is moving 9th grade into the high schools, which would boost the high school enrollment. If that were to occur, then there would be a domino effect where we would probably need to close one junior high at least, and possibly move 6th grades into junior highs. And all of those things would affect which schools would need to be consolidated or closed. And so I think that really this project needs to be taken by a future board with kind of a global perspective, including all of these pieces so that we get the right things happening at the elementary level.
Other comments?
I actually am not in favor of tabling this, or putting it off. I think we are the only area of the 3 districts that were created with the past election that has a serious deficit. And as such, that we are going to have to do some serious belt tightening in order to meet our long-term goals, which is to be a viable and competitive school district. And I really am voting in protest on behalf of our administrators and teachers who have endured quite a bit of uncertainty right now, and it is only in their interest that I am lodging a friendly no vote. But I hope that future boards will be aggressive in attacking and making us a solvent and competitive school district. And I do count on them to follow through on these things. We do have 2 Spanish programs that are right next to each other. We have a very low enrolled school. We have general ed students who are not being well served in this area. And these are problems that will need to be addressed by a future board, and I recognize that they are, I hope that they are as committed as I am to solving these problems. Thank you.
I was grateful for the opportunity to go with Ada. Ada and I went and visited Windsor and Linden. And, I mean, there's obvious difficulties in those schools. And in a regular Alpine school district year, I think the decision would be obvious. But whereas since we are splitting, the landscape has completely changed. When I look back on the split, and this is just my feeling on it, I don't think people chose to split because they didn't feel like Alpine School District was not providing a good educational experience for their kids, nor do I believe that it was anything fiscal, any fiscal irresponsibility. I think we've been very, very fiscal, which leaves the third prong, which is the possibility of people voting for a split because of the idea of local control, which I believe we should honor that. I wasn't for the split, but I think we should honor the vote. And that just changes my lens on so many things. I don't presume to know what a future board, what their goals and visions will be, or their new superintendent. And I know that Orem and Linden and Pleasant Grove and Vineyard are going to have to really take a look at what this is going to mean for their area. Some of the pushback I've gotten, and I understand it, is by holding off and having a new board do this, it may be longer than a year, and maybe we can't wait a year. Well, the thing is that January of 2026, when you have a new board in, their first responsibility or task is going to be hiring a new superintendent and business administrator, and looking at a budget is right behind that. And they are going to have to make some real tough calls and decisions. And I just feel like it just has changed a complete different lens, and it's difficult, but our job, I feel like, as a board currently, is to make sure that we are doing things that set up these 3 districts up for success. And one could argue and say to me, well, Sarah, guess what? I don't think you're setting them up for success because there are so many issues that maybe it could impact the schools. And I understand that. However, I think the underlying principle is making sure that we're honoring what I believe is probably the desire of local control. And I support that. And I know that we've heard from teachers and people that are in those schools every day. And I go back to the local control, but they don't, I would say the majority don't live in that community or that area. And so it's been a hard decision for me because I can see, some of the challenges of these schools, and yet I feel like honoring the vote and moving forward and trying to do things the right way for these 3 new districts supersedes some of these issues, and that they'll as a community have to grapple with all of that.
Thank you. Any other board member comments? Okay, it was.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Julia.
I used to think my talent was sleeping, and I could sleep anytime, anywhere. The last 3 months have proven that very wrong, as I find myself up at 2 a.m. a lot thinking about this decision. I give myself a lot of pats on the back for not responding to emails at 2 a.m. Because maybe I am more asleep than I think. But a lot of sleepless nights have gone into this. As I look at that north quadrant of Orem and into Linden, that there's a significant decline in students from when I had the privilege of teaching at Windsor back in the 90s. It's a great community, and I understand that. Keeping it open has costs associated with it. There is financial implications of keeping a school open when they don't have the student enrollment to sustain all of the programs they've become accustomed to. Alpine School District only grew 30 students last year. 250 of those students were at the high school in my neighborhood. So when you start thinking about that, you realize that to grow 30 and that there's a lot of change in where the students are located. Not only is there a fiscal impact, there's an educational opportunities impact. The ability to have teachers, we might have to do some split classes. That's not always super ideal, but it's a possibility. So as I've really grappled with that cost, and cost isn't just a financial, but how it impacts those communities. And then I too go back, like Sarah, to making decisions closest to the community. And I think at this point, it's a benefit to hold off a little and let that new board come in and really look at that. But that new board that is elected, if anybody thinks they're going to get off without closing a school in that area, financially, I'm sure that's not possible. That those decisions have to be made. I'm not a fan of kicking the can down the road. I think that's how we got to this situation. And to continue to kick it kind of led to my sleepless nights. But at the end, I think we need to allow for that local process.
Just a note for our Windsor parents, I have been looking for a way to rebuild Windsor for several years now. And we don't qualify for any state or federal money at this point. There's no help that way. And so Joylyn is right, there's going to be some tough decisions. But I would like to see that future board take that on, because Windsor is a great location, and it's a spacious piece of acreage, and there's a lot of advantages. But that is not a decision that this board needs to make or can make at this time. So we have a motion by...
I just had one more comment.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I know that as we look at a three-way split, a lot of our employees are being asked, where do you want to serve? Where would you like to teach? Where would you like to be a support to educators? And I would like my area to be a choice that they would make. And I think, and I'm just saying that is why I'm going to vote the way I vote tonight, because I want us to be a destination district that is chosen because their board is willing to do the hard work and make it so that as much money can get to the classrooms as possible. That is what a teacher is looking at. That is what a superintendent is looking at. That is what a business administrator is looking at. How willing is this board to do the hard work? So I'm just going to say that's what my vote is going to represent tonight. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I think when I make decisions, a lot of times I feel like we have 80-20 or 60-40 votes, where it feels like there's one that is definitely, putting your finger on the scale and you know which way it's leaning. This one's been a 49-51 for me. And that's, I think, where a lot of us have struggled. I know the focus is on Windsor because that's the school that is considering being closed, but at the same time, if we choose not to close Windsor, it also impacts Northridge, it impacts Orchard, it impacts Foothill. And I have struggled with this one, and it was interesting to me because even today I was getting emails, someone saying, please close Windsor, and then 10 minutes later, please keep Windsor open. And it's this kind of thing of like, you want to be responsive to the community, and everybody thinks they represent the majority. And we're getting a lot of conflicting information, right? And because I think it's a 49-51 is why I'm willing to push this decision to a new board. But I also want to be very, very clear that the new board will have a heavy lift with this. My recommendation personally will be that they need to look at a boundary change over the entire south area of the district, that it needs to look at, you know, whether, and maybe the decision made by that new board is not the closure of Windsor, it's a reboundary in some other way. And just at the same time, we were talking about Shelley, right? Is that the right location for an ALL program? The only reason I have pause and I'm saying, okay, maybe this is a decision for a future board is because I don't want to make a decision that a board might make differently based on information when they look at the entire South District as a whole instead of looking at one or two pieces of student population. I also do want to recognize that what Ada is saying is correct, that there is a deficit in the South, and one of my goals has been not to disadvantage any district, regardless of the configuration. And so I'm also communicating that, you know, I'm willing to have conversations, throw out ideas, but as far as no action being taken prior to July 1 of 2027, I think that would be a significant disservice to the Linden, Orem, Vineyard, and Pleasant Grove area. Actions do need to be taken. I am willing to assign that in a way to their area and their level of representation, but I want to be very, very clear that actions will need to be taken and they will need to be significant. I think everyone here is willing to help and roll up our sleeves and do what needs to be done while also recognizing the autonomy that the South District deserves.
Okay, thank you. This is something we've been talking about for years, a couple of years, and it's a tough one. So the motion at hand, made by Ada and seconded by Mark, is to conclude the study with no action. That means keeping Windsor open for now. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you.
Nay.
Thank you, Ada.
Given the vote that just took place to take no action with the closure of Windsor, our staff would recommend that the board not merge the Windsor DLI program and create a magnet program at Orchard Elementary. You need to make a motion. That is a recommendation of staff.
Okay, we need a motion then.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we conclude the DLI program study, which proposed the merger of Windsor Elementary DLI program with the creation of magnet program at Orchard Elementary. Conclude that study, that formal study, by taking no action.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Mark and seconded by Sarah. Board member comments.
A lot of the discussion we've had previously with regard to closing Windsor also applies here. However, there's one additional piece, and that is if we were moving forward a whole district and trying out this new idea of a magnet DLI program, I think that we would have the critical mass to actually make that work. I'm concerned that in the midst of a district split, trying to create a new magnet program would not be wise, and that we should delay and let a new board contemplate that.
Okay, other comments? I think that's well spoken. I think that we all agree with that, and that it's a matter of timing at this point and letting a future board make those decisions. So all in favor of, it's been moved by Mark, seconded by Sarah, all in favor of closing the study, concluding the study to merge Windsor Elementary DLI with the creation of a magnet program at Orchard Elementary, that we conclude that with no action. In other words, we leave it as it is. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, thank you.
Last item with respect to these formal studies was the closure of Linden Elementary.
Like to make a motion? I'd like to move that we conclude the formal study of the closure of Linden Elementary by taking no action.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mark and seconded by Stacy. Board member comments.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting to look at some of these consolidation plans. Again, I'm going to fall back on, again, you know, as been mentioned before, that we really need to probably look at boundaries for all of these schools in that South District. And it's it's not easy to predict what a future board would want to do with respect to these schools. If it were if there were room, I would be tempted to go forward anyway, but the current proposal would need 5 portable units to house those students. And I think that would put an undue pressure on the bathrooms, the lunchroom, all kinds of things at Rocky Mountain. I think that as I've looked at projections for enrollments, it's not like things are going to change drastically in the next 2 years. I think that the new board could make a decision on what to do with those more effectively than we could. I also think that if we have new information now that we didn't have when we did the initial study of this closure. Now we know that the district's going to be splitting. And I think that that new information could have impacted that decision. And probably if we look at this down the road when the new board is seated, that they will be able to include that in their decision and make a wiser decision.
One thing I was going to mention, I think I can speak on behalf of all of us, is that we've all received feedback, emails, comments from people, members of the community, and we've read all of those, and I think that's important. I think it's just worth saying, it's just we're looking at things in such a different lens now that as a board, I think we need to be careful just in the future of. And we will, be meeting next month and reevaluating our goals and reevaluating and adjusting, our vision and for what it is. And being careful that we're not, handcuffing the new board, but it's a delicate balance. It's something different and has never really been done in the state of Utah with a three-way reconfiguration. But I think it's just a good reminder of our board to make sure that we are stepping where we need to step and stepping off where we need to step off so we can allow areas to flourish and making sure that we're not getting in the way of progress and decisions that will be made from future boards, and yet at the same time trying to set them up for success. So like I said, it's going to be a very delicate balance, but just being mindful as a board that this process is going to be unique and delicate in the future, and to be very careful of how we're making those decisions and setting up new districts, and hopefully it will be a successful adjustment.
I know I have met with more Linden parents than anybody in my area over the last few months. I think some of my biggest concerns here, it's hard when I appreciate the passion behind loud people. But I also feel like sometimes we do a disservice to the people who, particularly for our employees that maybe aren't comfortable coming here. The thing that is most concerning to me through this whole process is the employees who have said, I feel like the parents don't care how this impacts us or what it means among our faculty. And so while I do think closing it is the right thing, I also know what it is to represent an area that has decisions made by people who are not in that area and who don't know what's best for that area, which is why I'm willing to support not closing it. But I do hope that those who will make the decision will consider, as we've seen with several schools that we brought on study and then pushed it off and brought it back and pushed it off, for the people that are in the building every day, it's different as a parent. When you go in and you're reading in a classroom or helping with a party or maybe doing math facts, it's a much different lens than if you're an employee in that building. And if you're an employee in a building who has been up for discussion multiple times, that is a very heavy weight on them. It's a heavy lift on our principals who are doing their best to keep everybody morale high when there's constant discussions. And so I hope that as we move forward with the people that are making the decision, that they'll really consider how this impacts everybody. And I also think it's interesting, Linden Elementary are not the only students in Linden. So I heard from numerous parents who said, we just want to stay together. And there seems to be a little bit of a community sentiment that somehow the Rocky Mountain students are not part of that. Linden community. And so I would just encourage everyone to have open minds and consider that if you live in Linden and you have a student, you have a Linden Elementary student. Additionally, I've been in that building a lot of times over the years, and it's only recently that I have determined that there are floor-to-ceiling windows in too many places. I'm concerned, you know, with HB 84 and the safety adjustments that have to be made. That's concerning as well. And I do worry about the future boards because I feel like it's hard to come in when a previous board has tied your hand or not left enough room. So I offer my apologies to the employees and the parents who are very much hoping for a different outcome tonight so that they can move forward. But at the end of the day, I do think that it does need to be made by the people who live in that area. And I think with a lens on the whole South area, examining GLI at Rocky Mountain, with that not being a viable program, I think there will be some other decisions made. So, and I would also say I want to caution the future leaders that I've heard a lot about growth in Linden. And I think we all have a different meaning when we say growth. What is growth in Lehigh is not current growth in Eagle Mountain. And any growth coming to Linden isn't even close to those other areas, Orem as well. So I guess I would just encourage everybody to do your due diligence. Look at what are the number of homes coming. And when you look at the number of homes, how many students is that really going to generate? So
we have actually, I think over the last couple of years, got a lot of support for the idea of closing Linden as long as they stay together. You know, as long as the AL comes with them, they're not split and sent to different places. We've had letters signed by members of the PTA or members of the faculty. There is a lot of support for closing Linden. It is an old building. It was built in the 50s. It has got seismic issues. It takes a lot of upkeep. And so there is a significant case for closing Linden. The question is now the time? And with the district configuration, I was in favor of closing Linden as you were. And I think all of us, I think every one of us have been to Rocky Mountain and taken a tour, looked at the classrooms, looked at the maps, looked at the playground, looked at the grass areas, look where you could put portables. Every one of us has actually walked the walk and been out to those schools, maybe more than once. And I think a lot of us feel like Linden needs to be closed, but is now the time? And is this the way? And that's the question that we're confronting right now. So it's a tough one. It is kicking the can down the road, but it is a future board is going to have to really wrestle with this in a very significant way. All right, is there any other discussion? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say I have been to these two schools. I have talked with their administrators, and I will again be making a protest vote.
I just hope that between now and when this decision comes before a board, again, that there's some process changes. When we started this, we had to have a crystal ball as to all of the opportunities that we might consider the outcome 90 days later. And as we interacted with the community, if new ideas were generated that hadn't been thought of, that had some validity to them, we couldn't explore them because we hadn't noticed them. And that becomes very problematic. As you enter a study with your public, you want to be able to have an open study that you haven't predetermined, but to notice a study you have to predetermine. And I feel like it's just we're chasing our tail, trying to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that we come out of a program appropriately. So I hope that we can use this experience to hopefully have some changes in the process so that we can have some really good community engagement, because the community engagement has been great over the last 90 days, really exploring that. The second ask I have of my community, especially those in the Windsor and in the North Orem community, as Mark said, that it would increase portables and have drastic enrollment changes weren't foreseen. my area will foresee drastic enrollment changes, and those enrollment changes are going to occur prior to new boards being able to make votes. So though we may kick the can down on this decision, there are decisions like finding ways to fund this start of construction of a new high school are important, that we don't kick those cans. So we have to start to weigh, where can we hold and make it work for students, and where do we still have to take action even though we know a new board's going to take place. And both of those decisions have financial and student growth outcome impacts. And we're gonna need to look at them and wrestle with them. And sometimes we're gonna say, yeah, this is a good time to pause and to restudy or relook at, and maybe we'll still have the same outcome in a couple years, or maybe we'll come up with some new cool opportunities, because I think opportunities lie, and there are going to be votes that we need to courageously take forward and say, yes, this is right, because we can't ask students to stay in overcrowded positions. So I just have an ask of everybody at the table and everybody in the room to keep our minds open, that sometimes we can pause. This one, through my restless nights, I think we can pause for a minute. Again, it's a 4951 thing, but there are going to be decisions that aren't 4951, that are 2080, 1090, that we're going to have to take action on. And so I just plead that we keep an open mind over the next years to make decisions where they're appropriate and to hold where appropriate.
So one of my favorite days is when the enrollment projection book comes out. It is like, it's like Christmas for me personally. I will say that I spent a lot of time on enrollment projections when the information came out. I appreciate our business services team and the fact that adjustments are made every year to kind of reflect changes. And one of the things that stood out to me as I was going through and looking at enrollment projections was that when we split in July 1 of 2027, there will be 14 elementary schools in the South District that will be under-enrolled. And as we talk about, not wanting to disadvantage any area, that concerns me. And so I want to be perfectly clear that just because we're pausing on this action doesn't mean that no action has to be taken in the future. I worry about the consequences for under-enrolled schools and programs. I also want to acknowledge that this is a multi-million-dollar decision. When we are committing to keep schools open, we are committing millions of dollars to make that happen. And there may be consequences to that, whether that is class size impacts. We have significantly invested board allocated FTEs, and that means that there are less resources in other areas. So I want to acknowledge and make sure that there's an understanding that there is, Joylyn referenced that, there are program, opportunity options, student opportunities and programs that can be limited because of resources being spent in other areas. And so I hope that that is something that is recognized, and that issue is understood fully as far as the deficit if there are not changes made by that date, the allocation date of July 1 of 2027.
Any other comments?
I just have one more. I want to extend my thank you for all of the district staff who participated in these studies over the years. For your flexibility. There is part of me that I feel badly for all the work that was done, and now we're in this massive hold. So I just want to recognize that there were a lot of people who spent a lot of years trying to do the right thing for kids. So thank you to those, thank you for your flexibility, and thank you for the grace.
Can I get an amen on that one? All right, we have a motion by Mark and a second by Stacy that we conclude the formal study to close Linden Elementary with no action. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Thank you.
The last action item we have is the Teacher Merit Award participation. In the previous legislative session, resources were allocated for a pilot program that would incentivize or provide additional compensation for teachers who reached a certain level of student achievement and other variables that are being determined. Executive Director of Human Resources, Cami Harper, and myself have participated in webinars, other sessions. Our recommendation at this time, the statute directs that districts need to decide if they're going to opt into the pilot program by the end of December of this year. Our recommendation is that while we do want to recognize the excellence of our teachers and their achievement, given the nature of the reconfiguration of teacher transfers over the next couple of years as they find the district that they want to be in, we believe that it is not the right time for Alpine to participate in this pilot program. We are we recognize that this may lead to some of our teachers not being eligible for that because we're choosing as a district not to do it. However, we believe that if the pilot program goes through and they figure out a way to do this well, that there'll be opportunities for those future districts to participate in that. Several of our neighbor districts are not participating as well just because of timing and other things going on. Others are choosing to explore it a little bit further. Our recommendation again is that we pause at this time, not participate in the pilot program due to the challenges going on, the opportunities that we have associated with reconfiguration.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I move that we do not participate in the Teacher Merit Award program.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Ada and seconded by Stacy. Board comment.
I think that the legislature is well-meaning and would like to reward our good teachers, but we need to recognize that teachers themselves are very ambiguous about this kind of program because they, especially in the Alpine School District, we have a team culture where teachers work together, and to single out one of them as somehow deserving above another is very problematic for them and as well as for us. And there are other factors as well that I'm sure others will touch on, but I'll just touch on that one.
Are you saying it creates a culture of competition, not cooperation? And our culture is cooperation. It creates a scenario where if one teacher's test scores are being weighed against another, they may not want to share their best lesson plan or their best practices because they want that bonus. So I see it as being a very divisive, as it is constituted, a very divisive program. Other comments?
I agree that it does seem to directly conflict with our culture of collaboration, but also since it was announced, and we've talked about this in our Student Employee Support Committee, but it's gone through several, can I say change of hands, the ownership has changed. And so I think without being fully confident that it will be a good thing, I don't wish to wade into those waters, but I also have significant concerns about who would have been eligible for it anyway. And I think no matter what you teach, whether it is a core class, an art, any of these things, all of our teachers put significant time into what they're doing. And I am not interested in trying to suggest that somebody is less deserving because of the field that they have chosen to go into.
So I met with the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate this afternoon, and as part of that group, we had several superintendents and board members from several districts in the Wasatch Front. And this topic actually came up. I think that I was leaning towards, following this suggestion and not being involved in it. And we had a very vigorous discussion about this. Finally, we kind of examined what is it that we really don't like about it. And I think it came down to this, well, one teacher is going to feel jealous that another teacher got a merit-based award and they didn't, and that it would I can see a potential for this causing, again, more disunity among them. But then we started talking about it, and we said, do we really think that our teachers are that petty? You know what I mean? I can see a teacher team getting behind and being really excited for one person that got this award. And I think it's also interesting. I think for a while we had districts on the Wasatch Front that were not going to be involved, but I think 3 from the Wasatch Front decided either today or yesterday to join in. Among those, Jordan, I think, that had been previously not participating. And as we talked about some of their reasons, again, the exact criteria that will be used to make these awards has not yet been decided. And so I think the superintendents that voiced their opinion felt that there is some possible merit system that they would be in support of. And so they felt like, well, I want to be involved in this so I can help shape the discussion and so I can shape it to become something that would be better for teachers. And so I think I'm kind of switching my my support to where I think we should be involved in this because again, there's this group of a very large group of districts that are going to be involved that are wanting to shape it into a program that would not cause that kind of division and that kind of jealousy. And I think that the outcome will be that they won't come up with a system that will pit one teacher against another, although I don't know exactly what that program will look like. So that's kind of my experience.
We discussed that, Mark, particularly Cammie and I, and felt like we trust those that are involved in the process to help shape it with what we are going to be dealing with over the next couple of years. It would put an undue burden on HR and others to try and navigate that, but realize that there are going to be some adjustments and have confidence in those that are in the system that they will be able to have that interaction.
I just wanted to say that there are lots of opportunities in education, kind of like Dr. Farnsworth was saying, and when is the right time to start an opportunity and weigh that out. I think at the end of the day, I really trust superintendents and universities to come up with a really amazing program, and I think it's something that hopefully will move the teaching profession, my profession, forward and be able to honor and recognize the incredible teachers out there. But when we look at our opportunities that we face today as Alpine District and then as 3 new districts, I think it's probably not the right time to sink a lot of resources into creating that. I think it's time for us to lean on our friends in other districts along the Wasatch Front and across the state to lead out and to develop a program that's going to benefit our teachers that we can then participate in. And so I just really hope that the legislators don't, they just see this as an opportunity to study it and then to have more participate as it rolls out. And that's just kind of where I would like to go.
I personally would love to see this funding put on the WPU.
Can I just have one further comment? It just occurs to me that I really do appreciate the way our internal relations people do our awards and that they're nominated by other people around this teacher or this student or whatever. I think that's a wonderful way to honor someone. And I just appreciate the process and the thought that they've gone through to create these RISE awards. I think they fulfill their purpose.
Any other comments? All right, let me see if I've got this right. The motion before us is moved by Ada, seconded by Stacy, to not participate in the Teacher Merit Award Program at this time. All right, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, there we go.
Okay, we'll invite our Chief Legal Counsel, Executive Director of Legal Services, Craig Brinkerhoff, to come forward. We have 3 policies to discuss, and if the board is ready to take action on. First one is revision of Policy 5181, bullying prevention.
Okay, this policy has been a little bit out of date. The bullying policy, or excuse me, the definition of bullying in state statute has been updated this past legislative session, and so we wanted to get this updated. As part of that, we always like to involve those departments that most heavily deal with these issues, and so in this particular item of bullying, that's our Student Services Department. So we've been working collectively with them over the last many months, trying to get this policy right where we wanted it, as well as updated with current statute. So we feel like we've gotten to the right place now, and that this policy is ready to be reviewed and discussed and potentially approved by the board tonight. So we would recommend this. Again, the major changes are the update to the definition of what bullying is. We also, I've heard that legislation could change on this again, so we may change that definition again this next session, but as of right now, this is where it's at. So we recommend it for your approval.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the revision of Policy 5181?
I move that we approve the revised version of 5181 bullying prevention.
I second.
Okay. It's been moved by Sarah and seconded by Joylyn and Mark, so we'll say Joylyn. Any comments on this?
Well, as a policy team, it's funny because we try, no, we do. We wordsmith. I'm just going to say we do wordsmith. But going back up to the top, I mean, we were trying to come up with a little bit of a different name for the policy, and we put prevention there. What did it used to say? Was it just bullying?
Just bullying.
Yeah. And it just feels like it just empowers bullying, to just say our bullying policy. So we added the word prevention to just, we're not going to give that much, I guess, attention, try to, calm that down, the bullying part of it. The other aspect of this, and if you'll go up just a little bit, I wanted to kind of ask you a question on this. Didn't we decide, or maybe it was after? No? Our definitions are within it's not within our rules and regs and procedures, correct, Craig?
Yes, in this policy, it's up above.
Yeah, and we did that purposefully because we knew and anticipated that there could be legislation, future legislation that would change, just like Craig had said, the definition of bullying, that we would be able to change that and it wouldn't have to go clear to a board, and await the time we could make that switch, which is really helpful. And I am appreciative of the board understanding that we are trying to get through policy, and it is such a unique committee because we are trying to beat the clock. It seems that every legislative session, we only have such a short period of time to make sure that we have the policies put in place that we need to have put in place for that next year. And being able to make these little tiny switches without having it to have come to the full board for approval, just switching a couple of things has been helpful, and we're able to expedite these processes, this policy, in a way that we can hopefully keep up with other policies and make sure that we are right on par with where we need to be as a district in concerning policy.
And I just wanted to point out the definitions in here are taken straight from state statute. So we didn't spend a lot of time wordsmithing definitions. We use the state standardized definitions that are used across all of the LEAs in the state.
I just had a question.
Go ahead.
I had a question for council. I know that the board received a live version of this to look at, and I appreciate the opportunity to wordsmith and that you responded to my revisions. Is this standard practice?
No, we knew that this one had a lot of interest, So that was part of the reason why we shared it
Okay.
with everybody. And also because the changes are more significant in this one. Like, there's a lot of changes in this one. Many of our policies, when we revise them, it's a little bit here, a little bit there. This one was more significant. And so the intent was to get it before your eyes before a couple of days so that you had a chance to read through it.
I really do appreciate that because I really am a detailed person and I like to get the ducks in a row correctly. But I also appreciate that I could see that our district professionals have weighed in on this, so their expertise is embedded in this.
Yes.
So I didn't write the number down. I think it's 2.2 somewhere. Yep. So very much I appreciate this section. For years, particularly in our secondary school, we've had struggles between schools and our city officers when something, happens offsite. And so I just very much want to say that I appreciate the attention to the offsite violations that impact what happens at school. It's kind of felt like sometimes some of the city officers will say, well, that's a school thing. Well, but if it happened off campus but is now coming in. So I just want to say I very much appreciate bringing attention to this. And I think that I really, really appreciate the way you worded it. I think it's fantastic. And I think this is going to help a lot of kids moving forward. So thank you.
Shocker, Craig. I'm actually going to vote no on this one. I am not, I just feel like the parental notification piece is not strong enough. Parental notification. When it talks about communication as soon as reasonably possible, it just, that to me is insufficient. I've been having a lot of conversations with parents about gaps in communication when it comes to bullying and hazing. I get that this isn't part of the procedures and we're voting on the policy and all the things, but also I feel like when I give my stamp of approval, I'm essentially saying I support everything. So rather than wordsmith this here, I'm not gonna make you go through that. I am just gonna say that I will be voting no because I don't think the parental notification piece is strong enough. There is a reason for that. We kind of went back and forth, and Joy Lynn brought up some really good points during that meeting of we were trying to, because we really talked a lot about the parental notification. That was huge for us. And Joy Lynn, do you want to share with them kind of the reason of why we put as soon as reasonably, we put reasonably possible? I believe that was your word.
It's just tricky. You always want to communicate as quickly as possible with the family, and that is a priority, is that parental or communication piece. But to say that it has to be within 20 minutes or 40 minutes or how long that is really hard to tie. I've had some personal experiences with that, and so we just left it at reasonably because we want that communication to go as quickly as possible, but we want the incident to be handled sufficiently before, and that sounds really bad, that we're gonna handle the situation and then communicate. We want all students to be safe as the first priority and communication to be right there with it, but we don't want communication to supersede student safety.
Yeah, and I would say it didn't feel like as we were working on this that it was an and or. It was, there were some situations, and we didn't want to tie the hands. It's that balance between tying the hands of administrators, or if something has to be done real quick, we didn't want to handcuff them to a policy that would potentially get them in trouble, and yet making sure that our parents, that was the first thing that they were to do, was to get a hold of the parents. So we're trying to find that balance there, and that's why that was there. But I just wanted to let you know, as we wrestled with this, kind of what the context was. Craig, did you want to say anything more about that part of it?
No, I think that you've hit on it really well. Thank you.
We actually had a lot of discussion on this policy. What is bullying? Is it a one-time thing? Is it an ongoing pattern? What does the state code say? How do we bring everything into compliance? So I think that we've done the best we can on the policy. And Julie, if you have some concerns about language on other parts of it, then bring that to the committee and they can do that. in committee. So with that in mind, any other comments? All right, it was moved by Sarah and seconded by Joy Lynn that we approve the revised policy 5181. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, thank you.
Next policy is 5404, news media representative, and that is a revision to existing policy.
So we worked closely with Rich on this particular policy, our new communications director. He had some interest in revising this policy and making sure that we're doing two things, well, three things. One, informing the public of what's going on in our schools. Two, protecting our students who are in the schools and protecting their information and making sure that we're supporting the schools when they have media requests. So that's kind of what drove these policy changes. We, again, work closely with the Director of Communications on some things that he would like to see in here. We would recommend these changes to you.
Do I have a motion to approve policy 5404?
I move that we approve policy 5404.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Craig, I'm back. I appreciate this one, but also like it feels like the impetus was on student rights and that there wasn't any kind of focus on student safety. My thing is I just need a student safety piece added in there. So I'll just leave that feedback and then vote no and move on with my life.
Thank you.
We did talk about this a little bit in our communications committee meeting this morning, and I think that we've identified the things that are probably kind of new since this policy was written, and I support it as being sufficient to be passed.
So I think it's 1.2.3. I really like that this is collaborative. I think previously it was just principals let the district person know. But, yep. Anyways, I'm just very appreciative that this gives principals some ownership and allows them to be part of what impacts our school. So thank you for this section.
Okay, other comments?
I guess I want to echo what Julie said. I really was looking for a little bit more strong. I know as a board member, I'm always very conscious of pictures I take, things I post online. Like I avoid student images unless I have permission from their parents. You know, I go to a great deal of trouble to make sure that I don't do anything that violates privacy or parental wishes. So, yeah, I guess it was not quite as strong as I thought it was going to be. So.
So it may be the committee can go back to 1.2.3 and add a clause in there about student safety.
I think they're related.
Yeah, student privacy and safety. One of the things that this committee was looking in depth at is when the media contacts the district, then they are sent to the district representative. So that's Rich Stoll. But when they go directly to a school, sometimes that creates problems for principals or challenges. And we wanted to give the principals some guidelines, and we wanted to give them some support so that they would know how to develop a media engagement plan and what that means. We'd like to get some training for our principals as they handle the media at their school. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. So it's been moved by Mark and seconded by Ada that we approve news media representative revision policy 5404. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, I think it passes. It was 2 nays, correct? All right, thank you.
Last policy is 7210. It's a new policy, the use of student and employee images.
So this is a brand-new policy that's being proposed. This also is kind of a sister policy to the one we just looked at. As we talked with the Department of Communications and worked through this, their main interest in this policy is when we do so much communication to our public, sharing out events, sharing out highlights about Alpine School District, more often than not, they're using stock photos of random people, random students from who knows where. And they had the feeling of, why don't we use our own? Why don't we use our own students? And this policy does lay out a process to get parent permission when necessary, and also deferring to parents if we're going to highlight a student in a publication or what have you. But the thought was, why shouldn't we be highlighting our great students instead of stock photos? So that was kind of the message that Rich shared with us as we talked through this. And we would recommend this as something that would allow us to highlight our students in a more personal way, sharing their photos, but again, with protections in place and making sure that we have permissions. Also highlighting employees and getting employee permission to use their photos.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve this new policy 7210?
I move that we approve policy 7210, use of student and employee images.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Board comment or questions?
Can you just move right, just barely right above procedures, just that next paragraph right under procedures?
While Sarah's thinking about this, so this is primarily district use of images. I guess before we've tried to restrict anybody taking pictures, and it felt like it could be, that students could be penalized from taking pictures of each other, but that's not what this is doing, is that correct?
Yeah, so this is use by us for our purposes. So for example, I mean, we had pictures taken here earlier today, right? And then we allowed family members to come up. We can't stop family, if we can't stop other students, especially at a performance, from taking pictures and using those. That's not what the intent is. The intent is when we highlight an individual or highlight an individual student or employee, then that becomes the subject rather than the event itself, or like the play performance or the whole choir. If it's a picture of a whole choir, it's not something that's going to violate FERPA. If there's a picture that singles in on an individual student, that's when we start to run into FERPA violations. And so when there is a student highlighted, we would make sure that we're covered under FERPA and get the permissions necessary. When it's just a athletic performance, or somebody takes a picture of an entire team playing basketball on the basketball court, there's not permissions needed for those types of things. But we also want to, or our communications department would like to highlight our own students rather than, again, like I said, just taking some random picture of a basketball team playing basketball, and instead say, hey, this is our Lone Peak High School basketball team, or whatever, to try and make it more personalized and give recognition where recognition is due, perhaps.
So I'm going to vote no on this, but I will give the caveat that I didn't realize until earlier that I did not communicate this to anyone, so my apologies for this. My only concern with this is that this is for the purpose of district communication. I understand that we can't control the public or other students. I will say with things like the arts, most of my teachers, their students have a media permission because they're in that class. My concern is that we've seen a growing number of employees who will take photos during the school day and then post those online. And I went through the other 7,000 series, and there's not anything that really addresses that. And I would like for there to be some very specific direction in terms of what is not allowed, particularly because we do have students, and I know it's not a lot, but for whom their online safety is essential to their life safety. And so I know that people are trying to prove a point with those things that they're sharing, but I just want to make sure that we are setting a clear expectation with our employees of what they're taking a picture of and the places that they are sharing those out.
Could I ask a clarifying question? I don't have a student currently. I won't have a student in my future either. But so I don't have access to Skyward. And so we are relying on Skyward as that parental permission piece. What does that look like? Is it just a box you check, or is it's very simple? Or
Yeah,
what?
so there's a couple things, and this policy goes a little bit beyond just the Skyward permissions, but every year when a parent goes in and registers their student or updates the student information, there is a checkbox that says that you agree to allow some personal identifying information that is considered. Here at the bottom, there's a list of directory information. So if a parent is okay with directory information of their student being shared, they'll check that box. And the directory information is usually the name, the email, what grade they're in, what schools they've attended. It can include their email address and their photo. And more often than not, that's used for things like the yearbook or a playbill or all sorts of things like that, where we get permission in advance so that we can highlight those students that we have, include their picture. It might be on a team roster. It might be on, things like that. And so parents have given their permission by checking that box. So if they haven't checked that box, we obviously would need to go back and check with them. Sometimes they might not understand and they might have checked that box, but really they want their student's picture to be in part of that program of the event that they're in or the choir that they're performing as a part of. And so then we could get permission from them individually or have them go back and change that permission. But that's what that is for, directory information. FERPA law has a list of things that are considered directory information, and then it allows the individual schools or districts to further determine if they're going to use all that as directory information or make it more narrow in scope. Yeah.
Craig, I don't recall a specific conversation that we had in policy, kind of to Stacy's point, if there was a teacher and let's say it was something like this bear hugs thing that we saw at the very beginning of our meeting, and there was, a teacher or whatever, and they just took a screenshot and posted something on their Facebook saying, we're doing this today. Is there anything in this policy that covers that specifically?
No, not this specific policy.
Yeah, see, I didn't.
Yeah, this is more directed at district communications.
And so would it, if we're talking about that level of privacy for our students, would that be in another policy itself? Or
Well,
since this one is directly
No, it's a
towards
good question.
communication?
And we do have a FERPA policy. Our FERPA policy is basically protecting student information, right? We could be more direct about how we want to approach that, more direct about how we communicate that and train that to our teachers on these types of topics. Again, when we're talking about what is a student record, if the photo highlights an individual or maybe one or two individual students, then it's a student record. If it's a photo of a group of students, it's not considered a student record, and so there's no FERPA protection.
And so I guess the clarification I'm looking for, because I'm feeling there's a little hesitancy amongst some of the board members here wanting to pass this policy tonight. If there was something like that, where it was maybe a teacher taking a picture of one student, two students, and there's privacy issues, would that particular type of protection of students of images fit within this realm of the policy, or not? Because this policy really is focused merely on when we're communicating or advertising, that type of thing. Would it be a different policy, or is this something that these concerns would go into this policy and we would go back and?
So this policy can cover employees. It does, like in 1.1.2, it talks about authorized personnel, including district employees. It goes through kind of the steps that we would take if you were going to plan to use a photo. So if you go down further in 1.2, authorized personnel will notify a site administrator before capturing any imagery. And then before using that image, you'll check skyward, make sure that there's permissions, and give a notification, courtesy notification to the parent. That parent can give or revoke permission at any time. So, I mean, it is covered. It's maybe not as tight or as explicit as would be liked,
So would this body here feel comfortable if the board went in and, you know, procedurally made some changes to tighten it up a little bit to make it more?
So I'd be thrilled if you changed the title. I think that's what kind of caught my eye from the beginning when we're saying use of employee name and image. It doesn't say for district communication purposes, right? And there's nothing in the employee code of conduct that addresses it. And so for me, and I understand I may be the only person who feels that way, and that's just fine. But I would like to see, I think, and I guess I'm thinking a little more specifically of our secondary schools that have thousands of kids in them, and sometimes things move very quickly. And I understand that most of the time people are trying to share a positive thing, right? But I don't know who's on everybody's social media or online following on a variety of platforms, right? And so for me, because the title is open, I would like it to be tighter. But if the group consensus isn't there, it's fine.
I'll say it kind of goes back to the kind of echoing what Stacy said. I have some concerns about student safety with some of this that I'd like to have locked down a little bit stronger.
I'm not sure if I need a motion or a substitute motion. Were this item as a discussion or an action item? What is the proper way where we already have a motion on the table to just have it be the discussion and have it go back to policy, tighten it up, and then bring it back to the body?
We can vote no.
Yeah.
Just vote no and then take it back to committee with concerns noted.
Well, again, I'll say, and I say this all the time, I'm sorry. If we're just leaving the statement of policy and the policy itself and the rules and regs we want to change and tighten up on the procedures, my motion is that we pass policy 7210 with the caveat to go ahead and firm up those things for student protection and privacy.
I appreciate that that is your motion. I am not comfortable passing it with that title and the policy, which is what I'm voting on.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, this is going to be interesting. It's been moved by Sarah and seconded by Mark that we approve this policy as it is written. All those in favor of approving the policy as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Is it 3 to 4?
What did you say?
I said aye.
So I.
However, with this strong recommendation of the committee to go back and work on the title, work on the concerns that have been expressed. So if board members would email a member of the committee with their specific concerns, then they can take that to the committee next month and make those adjustments.
Sounds great.
Thank you, council.
Okay, membership report.
Yes, you've received the membership report. Appreciate our business services team in creating that. You'll see that we still have some growth in areas, declining in other areas. Those patterns continue. So we'll continue to monitor that in terms of high growth area and those that are declining. FTEs are going to be coming out in the next couple months for our secondary and elementary schools associated with these projections. And so we will be working with our supervisors in our schools regarding their FTEs.
Thank you. And now we have an opportunity for board member or superintendent reports. So superintendent, let's start with you. Is there something you'd like to share at this time?
Yes, I would just like to express my appreciation to you publicly for your service as a teacher, a distinguished Teacher of the Year in Alpine School District, for your many years of service, your lifetime of service to education and to the students, and not only your service as a teacher, but then continuing that service as a board member. That is commendable, and many families, students, administrators, have benefited from your service, so thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a good 40 years.
I was going to say kind of the same thing, Sarah. You know, when people talk about what do board members need to have to be a successful board member, and I always say that you can learn the knowledge and the skills, but the disposition can't be taught. And yet, I don't know if I know another board member that has the knowledge, the skills, and the disposition like you. And you know that I love you, and we've developed a great friendship over the years, but
we're both Sarah.
There you go. There you go. But I hope you know how much you are loved and appreciated, and just the absolute difference, kind of like Julie, what she said at the beginning, just the thousands of people that you've impacted. And I hope you can, you know, walk away tonight from your last board meeting and know that you have just made such an incredible difference in so many people's lives, and we love you and wish you the very, very best.
Thank you so much.
I would like to share some messages to you. I've reached out to a couple of former board members from our area, and first I reached out to Debbie Taylor, and she said she had been thinking of you, and lately, yesterday as a matter of fact, and she shared this message. Thank you, Sarah, for your many years of service to this district in the classroom and on the board. Your love for kids and learning is palpable. You had the courage to make the hard decisions when it was, well, hard and not at all popular. I'm proud of you and your legacy of heart and conviction. There is lots of good life after the board. Go and have some fun. With lots of love and gratitude, Debbie. And I'd also like to share a message from Jody Sundberg, who's my predecessor. Dear Sarah, thank you for your great service as an excellent board member. You have been an example and an inspiration to many. Thank you for choosing to always best serve the children and ensuring that our teachers should be respected as professional educational experts. Thank you for standing up for public education and being a courageous voice for good when communicating truth to power. I will always be grateful for our time serving together. And in my own behalf and in behalf of the children that I birthed, that you influenced so deeply, thank you for your many years and for your friendship.
We worked way harder than we wanted to in those classes, didn't we? Parents would know. Oh, yes, history fair. Yeah. Okay, other board member reports.
So I just had I feel like this has to be a tribute thing, so I like you too, Sarah, so don't feel bad if but I do appreciate meeting you at the Orem Colonial whatever event and seeing the passion you have with your costume and everything, and that is the passion.
It's all about the hat, Mark.
Yeah, that's the passion that you bring to everything, and I really appreciate that. But also, we had a USBA board meeting this past week, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. First of all, we're going to have our District Schools Day on the Hill on January 27th, and that will be different this year. They're going to have a breakfast thing at 7:30, a patriotic celebration. The Legislative Committee has really been excited about this, and we are also going to wear white to that event as well as to committee meetings during this year. I know sometimes we have the UPU parents wear red or something, so this will be kind of our hallmark. We're going to wear white. And they are also setting up sign-up sheets so that we can try to pack the room for education meetings with people in support of public schools. So anyway.
So December, everybody's favorite month. Nobody has more joy than me when an email comes through that we are canceling a meeting to let everybody have December joy. But I did want to take a minute to thank all of the humans in our schools who, it's the most magical thing. I mean, I have admins dressed like elves. I have teachers that are sharing, you know, about different holidays that students observe around this time. And I just think it is really good to be an elementary kid in Alpine. So thank you to all of those for their efforts. It just is very cool. Also, in the Season O performances, I do occasionally sub for our arts teachers. And it is a very fun thing. This year I subbed the first week of school, and I haven't seen some of them until the concert. And I will never understand how the secondary arts people can take children who have never touched an instrument or used their voice, and they somehow teach them how to use them, and they put on these performances that are actually very enjoyable to attend. And so I just wanted to recognize all of their time and their hours to put those things together. I don't know that people realize, unless you are an arts person, that it's not just the curriculum and the learning of the daily, but they are putting on full-on shows with just themselves. So thank you to all of those efforts. And then I just have an ask for our community. I most days love the community that can be found online. And I love when people share the good things. Some people have their own hashtag. You can click it, find all their posts. It's lovely. And sometimes it doesn't go well. And so, and with respect to reconfiguration, I had decided early on for myself, whichever way this goes, I will react with class and grace. And I thought that perhaps everybody else would do the same. And I don't think that that is what has happened. And I know we have a lot of employees who watch this, and I know because they text and they say, I have my popcorn, I have my beverage. And so for those who might still be listening, I would just love for us all to consider that that reconfiguration is hard for everybody, but there are a lot of people who have given their entire professional careers or their students' lifetime as volunteers into making this an incredible district. And so I don't want anybody to feel less than. I think if you don't see it or understand it, it's hard to articulate for so many of our employees. People aren't just coworkers. These are their family. These are people who choose to go hiking with one another after they spent the entire week together, which is more than 40 hours, who are there to champion celebrations for students and pick things up when they need it. And so I think sometimes we get real brave behind keyboards and don't consider how demoralizing that some of the comments can be to the people who give so much, certainly not for the pay. And so my ask is that we all just really consider the things that we are putting online, and in the spirit of the holidays, reach out to the people that, you know, whether it was yesterday or 5 years ago, to the people in our schools that make a huge difference for our kids, because it is those personal connections and things that matter most.
Any other reports or comments?
I just wanted to give a shout out to business services. I am the worst at organizing information, and I don't know how many times a week I text or email Jason and say, hey, you know that document? Can you help me find it? I love the business dashboard. It has so much information, I feel like, just summarized in a very succinct manner for us to be able to access very, very quickly. And I just wanted to send a shout out to business services for completing the dashboard. Because it is super helpful to me as a board member to have all that information right at my fingertips, so thank you.
It's a great innovation, thank you. If there are no other comments, we do have need for a closed session tonight. So I need a motion to move into closed session.
I move that we move into closed session.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Julie and seconded by Ada. I will need a roll call vote to move into closed session.
Aye.
Joylyn Lincoln, aye.
Mark Clement, aye.
Julie King, aye.
Sarah Hack and I.
Sarah Beeson, aye.
Stacy Bateman, aye.
Okay, this meeting stands adjourned. We will move into closed session. And happy holidays to all of you. Thank you for coming and staying to the bitter end.